good day everyone. So here we are again in another session of a brief discussion about the health and safety topic. So one of our viewers have requested us to answer the question of what are the primary functions of a health and safety specialist in an organization, because he said that these are the normal or the typical questions they get to be asked every time they go for an interview. So let's break down the functions of a health and safety specialist or a health and safety practitioner or professional in an organization. So the first function of a health and safety specialist: giving correct advice to the organization in order to meet its legal obligation and of course achieve its policy aims. So that's the first function of a health and safety practitioner. The second function of a health and safety practitioner is to providing advice and guidance in terms of the health and safety standards that the organization is implementing. That's why when you prepare for an interview, you need to do a research, on which industry that the organization belongs to, so that when there are questions related to the standards that the organization is subject to the requirement, you are already familiar with it and you can provide them with some standards that can be attended whenever you become the health and safety practitioner or professional in their organization. The next function of a health and safety practitioner is of course promoting good culture. So it is one of our main responsibilities as health and safety professionals. We have to make sure that the health and safety culture in an organization is developed. Of course, it's not a simple thing to do. It takes time and it takes effort to achieve that kind of culture that you would wanted to have in an organization. So you need to develop a series of programs. You need to develop the culture of an organization. Another function of a health and safety specialist is advising management on accident prevention. So we need to look for the hazards. We need to identify risks, and of course take these hazards and risks into opportunities of developing programs that would prevent accidents happening in the organization. So that's part of our function. Another function of a health and safety practitioner is developing and of course implementing policies. This is one of the hardest part, being a health and safety professional, especially if you start your job with a company that doesn't have an established health and safety policies, because it will be your role to create, to develop and implement such policy. Of course, as we have mentioned, the health and safety policies or procedures that you will develop is basically based on the legal obligations that the company is covered, and of course what is company's aims and obligations or aims and objectives that they wanted to achieve in an organization, and last but not the least, what industry they belong to, so that whatever procedures or policies that you develop, they are taken or based from the legal obligations, from the company's aims and objectives, and of course from the industry standard that your organization that you're applying for belongs to. Another function of the health and safety specialist is overseeing the development of adequate risk assessment. That's why one of the skills or one of the requirement of a health and safety professional is that you know how to carry out risk assessment. Although the ideal risk assessment is done by the working party, it is our duty, it is one of our functions and role to oversee how these risk assessments are being done or how these risk assessments are developed. So remember, our function is an advisor. If we don't know how to carry out risk assessment, then we are in big trouble. So you need to understand that one of our functions is overseeing the development of risk assessment in your organization. Another function of a health and safety specialist or practitioner is identifying training needs. So it is our duty to understand what are the level of competency of the people working in the organization. Take note in terms of health and safety. Okay? So you don't have to mix that kind of training that human resource are giving or the technical department are giving. So you have to focus yourself on the health and safety related trainings. So you need to identify what are the health and safety trainings that is required for managers, for engineers, for supervisors, for technicians, for contractors, and for any specific type of work. So that is your duty to identify that training needs to be there with this kind or group of people in an organization. Another health and safety function of a specialist or an officer is to monitor the health and safety performance of an organization. We have to track down the performance of the company in terms of our health and safety statistics. That can be in terms of man hours, that can be in terms of incidents or accidents in your organization, that can be in terms of the trainings that have been implemented, that can be in terms of the programs that you have implemented, so on and so forth. So there are so many things that you need to cover, and ensuring that you monitor closely or you monitor the performance of your organization in terms of health and safety. Another function of a health and safety specialist is that whenever there will be an incident or an accident, you need to be overseeing the investigation process. Okay? You need to be one of the participants in the investigation process, or sometimes you can be asked to make the report. So it's a case-to-case basis. It depends on organization's investigation procedure. So that needs to be very clear. Another function of a health and safety specialist, which we all know as a common one, of course, is to carry out safety surveys, safety tours, safety inspections, and of course, conducting HSA meetings. So those are the most familiar function or the most common function of a health and safety officer. Another function of a health and safety practitioner is to identify or ensure that the health and welfare facility provided by the organization is up to the standard. Okay, the last but not the least function of a health and safety specialist is of course to notify the company if there are any cases of dangerous occurrences that happens in your organization. And in some countries, you are required also to notify the authorities on this kind of events. So I hope that you learned something today. So these are the primary functions of a health and safety specialist or practitioner. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again in our next video of a brief discussion on health and safety topic. So thank you for listening, and goodbye.